Okay.
We're live. Okay.
Hi, I'm Anna.
And I'm Delia.
And this is Pop-arazzi. The podcast dedicated to everything pop culture, featuring our most passionate opinions and the greatest guests around.
Welcome back. Today we'll be focusing on late 90s, early 2000s culture and how it's prevalent still today.
With a main focus around the Olsen twins and the original influencer, Paris Hilton.
So we just wanted to give you a quick intro of both of those people. So the Olsen twins, they started acting at 9 months old when they were cast as Michelle Tanner in Full House and continued to act until the show ended. From the start, these two were businesswomen. They founded their own production company when they were just 7 years old and used that company to make their own movies. Movies we love, such as New York Minute, etc., etc. Everyone was obsessed with the Olsen twins. They had their own fan club and were constantly followed by the paparazzi.
They had little books, too.
Yes, they did. They first started in fashion in 2004 when they made a collection with Walmart. Then, after the success of that, they transitioned into fashion as they slowly stopped acting. Mary-Kate Olsen is actually attributed as making the bohemian style of dress fashionable.
I didn't know this until Delia told me.
Yes, and the bohemian style was popular for so long. We all remember seeing Vanessa Hudgens' outfit to Coachella. Like, that would not have happened without Mary-Kate. There is no denying how influential she was.
She killed it.
Yes. And then they went on to found The Row and Elizabeth and James and have been designing for those brands in recent years.
Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about Paris Hilton. So she's the heir to the Hilton hotel fortune, and she's known as the original influencer. So she kind of made her public debut as a socialite at like age 15 because her family moved to New York. And so the transition to New York was kind of hard for her, but she loved the public scene and started acting out. And her parents sent her to correctional schools. And when she turned 18, she started to model. And she kind of like made it big when she was photographed for Vanity Fair by David LaChapelle in 2000. And so then a sex tape of her and her boyfriend was leaked, which kind of got her even more attention. And then she was made a household name when her reality TV show with Nicole Richie, The Simple Life, came out. And then she kind of transitioned into the music industry, released a self-album titled Paris. And
Stars Are Blind. So good.
Yeah. And then she began to DJ. And she also maintains over 19 product lines. She's also a businesswoman, like the Olsen twins. And she most recently released her documentary called This Is Paris, which gave a look into her life like never seen before and her trauma. And she kind of brought awareness to like the harshness of correctional institutions, which is kind of influential. So
today, we are going to delve even deeper into the 2000s culture and these original influencers with a very special guest who is extremely passionate about Y2K.
Please welcome head of NCDS Film Club and AP Art scholar, Niamh Mulligan.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on our show. We're super excited.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this was the most fun one to research.
Oh my god, yeah. It was so fun.
Okay, Niamh, so let's talk about the Paris Hilton documentary.
Oh,
yes.
Please.
I watched it last night. I watched like parts of it before, but I was like dumbstruck by it.
Me too.
It's so crazy what she's been through.
And the fact that she didn't I watched the documentary and then I watched The Simple Life, like the whole first season after, and it was such a contrast.
Yeah, and even in the documentary, you can tell like her voice like distinctly changes depending on when who she's talking to.
And like her mannerisms, she doesn't do the whole loves it. And like that's hot, which is iconic.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I find it like, I feel like when you watched The Simple Life before this, right?
Yes.
I love that show, first of all. It's so funny. Like, everyone should watch it, even if you don't like reality TV.
It was like basically one of the first reality shows, and it's about Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie, who are like the it girls of the time, and they are sent to live on a farm, in the first season at least. They're sent to live on a farm, and they basically have to fend for themselves. It's so funny.
And they have to like get jobs. But basically what the documentary talks about is like Paris was playing a character for a lot of that, and I feel like I knew that when I was watching The Simple Life. Like, I read some article that was talking about that.
Yeah, I read one too.
And that's why it's so funny, because she's like, what's Walmart? Like, is that where you buy stuff for walls? And I'm like, everybody knows what Walmart is. Like, it's
such a classic line.
It's often,
Exactly.
it's like obvious she's playing a character, but like, if you watch that show without knowing that, I see why it was really unpopular when it came out.
Yeah.
Like, I know so many people our parents' age, like, hate that show. And
Oh my gosh.
Like, my dad thinks I am a big fan of The Real Housewives, and like my dad thinks it's really funny, like how stupid these women act and how crazy they are. But like, when I watch The Simple Life, he's like, oh, this is trash. It's even more trash than The Real Housewives.
My dad walked by the TV when I was watching Simple Life, and he was like, this is true trash TV.
Literally.
But like, don't they see that they're obviously playing a character?
And
that
also,
makes it better.
It's not like they're like invading these people's homes. Like, they invite them.
I bet they pay them too.
Yeah.
I know. What bothers me the most about that show is there's always like some bratty son, like in the family they're staying with, and he's like, I'll be nice to them, but like if they act like little B words, I'm gonna show them what for. And I'm like, okay, chill, first of all.
Yeah.
That's like so good.
And they read so many of the tabloids, and they think that like Paris and Nicole are gonna be like the worst people ever, and they're usually really nice.
They are nice.
Also, I read an article and it was like Nicole Richie was like told to be a troublemaker, and she's not in real life.
Yeah.
And like, even on the show, she was like, you could tell that she was struggling so hard to be a troublemaker, because when she gets the first job, she's like trying really hard, and she's like trying to milk the cows and like flip the burgers like really hard.
Yeah.
And it was clear that like someone off camera was being like, okay, Nicole, you have to act really stupid now.
Yeah, like she was flipping burgers, and then but then like 2 seconds later, she was like just taking a whole thing of onion rings and dumping it in wrong, and it was like, wait, she was just doing one thing right.
Yeah, and like right when they get to the first house in the first season, she's like, we're nice girls. Like, I know you've heard rumors, but we're nice girls. And I'm like, okay, that's the thing with the series, is if I was like, I don't know how to say this without sounding like a brat.
Just say it.
But like, if I was Paris Hilton, I would act like worse.
Every single girl from NCIS would act the exact same
like
way. They show up at the house and
they're
the
supposed to kill a chicken.
Yeah, they're supposed to skin a chicken.
I can't even look at raw meat without gagging.
If any girl from NCIS went to this house and was like, and they were told they had to skin a chicken, they wouldn't do it either.
No, I couldn't make it like 2 days. I feel like, yeah, I would probably work better than they would.
Yeah.
But
also, like, when you take into account, well, this goes into the documentary, but when you take into account, like, what Paris had just been through with the troubled teen industry, like, putting on that persona was probably cathartic to just, like, have this, like, I don't know, armor on, but I don't know.
Yeah, so in the documentary, Paris delves into her trauma because when she was a teenager, after she started acting out, her parents sent her to a series of correctional schools, basically in the middle of the country, like in Utah. Was one of
the last one was in Utah.
And she just basically kept breaking out of them because of how horribly they treated her.
Yeah, and so in the documentary, she meets up with a bunch of other like survivors from her last school she went to, and it was really interesting to me because one of them was like, I was so confused by the persona you put on in The Simple Life, because literally 2 years earlier you were cooking and cleaning and doing all these chores and being like abused at like our school, and then you're like, I've never seen a mop in my life.
Yeah. And like, there's a scene where she talks about what she went through, and they would put her in solitary confinement, like, as a teenage girl. And she said there was a girl in the room next to her in solitary confinement who was in a straitjacket, like, for days. And it's just like, I am not someone who will always defend celebrities because, like, I don't really feel bad for them. But I do think that this documentary reminds you that, like, no matter the persona that someone puts out, like, they have been through things that you will never understand. And I do feel bad, like, when they talk about her ex-boyfriends who were so abusive and took advantage of her fame. It's
in the documentary, she has a box of old laptops, and
She buys a new one for every new boyfriend she gets.
yeah, because
Yeah,
she's
'cause they
scared.
break in.
Yeah, they break into her laptops and like steal stuff.
And
I-
like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that I think that one thing the documentary really emphasized is the idea of Paris's brand and how she built this brand to protect herself from her own trauma and like to separate her
Yeah.
true self from the public eye, since she was punished so harshly for it in the past. And like when you see this brand, you see her ex-boyfriends like taking advantage of the brand, and I don't know, it kind of shows the way that we treat celebrities, like they're
Yeah.
objects or material things that you can buy. Like, I was thinking about how she starts all these. Ooh. I was thinking about how she starts all these businesses, and none of her things would be popular if it didn't have her name on it.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
And it's like, I just feel bad. Like, I can't imagine not being seen as a human in the public eye
Yeah.
and instead being seen as like the word McDonald's. Like, she
Yeah.
turns into
Yeah.
a brand name instead of a human being.
And I think that's sort of a trademark idea of the 2000s. It's really because of the rise of technology at the same time. That's when we see much more prevalently the idea that celebrities are objects and
Yeah.
not people. Like, you especially see that in like Britney Spears. Like, her whole meltdown thing was a direct result of being objectified by paparazzi and tabloids.
Yeah, and also I think that like it goes back to like you kind of realize like, oh, why did the Olsen twins like stop acting? Why did they take a step out of the spotlight? And it's like, oh, that's why.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now we're just gonna transition into, I guess we can talk about the Olsen twins.
Yeah.
Just because
Yeah.
we kind of started talking about that. Definitely a 180. They had their own traumas. Don't get me wrong, but they just don't have a documentary about it because they're very private.
Which I like admire.
I respect it.
Yes, I do too. So since they stopped acting in like the mid 2000s. Then they started their own fashion brand, and since then they've basically been like off the grid. They only show up to like fashion award shows and the Met Gala.
Okay, I want to go to the Met Gala. Just like side note, but like
No, yeah,
the fact that
everybody
they get
does.
to go.
Yeah.
Daly and I were just talking about the camp theme last night and how everybody missed the mark so hard.
Oh yeah, Julia like posted something on her like.
Yeah, she
Yeah,
sends me
I remember.
screenshots.
Yeah.
Because I don't have Snapchat anymore. She sends me screenshots
Yeah.
of her story.
That's so funny.
I appreciate it though.
Yeah. So one of the things that happened to the Olsen twins, so they stopped acting, then they went to NYU, and then they dropped out. But
Wait, I didn't know they dropped out of NYU.
yeah, they did like a year and a half. I think it's really interesting that Mary Kate, even though she was so private, like spoke up about her eating disorder, because I definitely feel like at the time that she spoke up about it, eating disorders weren't really talked about. So to have this person who was an idol to so
Yeah.
many teenagers,
I feel like back then too, they were kind of glorified eating disorders.
No, I agree. It
like-
was like the whole heroin chic thing
Yeah.
was in style, like in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, and I
and you
feel
like
like-
look at Paris and her friends. Like, I love Paris, but she is like an unattainable body type for
Yeah.
anyone.
Oh my gosh, especially in the simple life,
Yeah, exactly.
it's absurd.
And all of the fashion trends were made to accentuate like small
like the
stomachs.
low-rise
jeans.
jeans, all that.
It's crazy.
Okay, we have some questions for you. Our first one is, how do you think being child/teen idols affected both the Olsen twins and Paris Hilton?
I would say that like anyone having a camera in their face from such a young age, like even with people our age, I talk about this so much, I sound like a broken record, but with people our age, like having social media so young is scarring to our generation, like undeniably.
And not even our generation. I feel like we're like right at the cusp. Like
we
even
got
like
a little bit lucky.
yeah, like the 8th graders now.
Oh my gosh.
In 8th grade, I was not wearing crop tops and like all that,
Yeah.
and like full faces of makeup.
I used to dress like Zoe Deschanel.
Yeah, and it's literally just because we see on social media all the time these unattainable body types.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
TikTok and like those influencers.
And even like like this year being on Zoom so much, I know that it's messed up people's self-confidence because you see your face 24/7. Like, it's insane. And I can't imagine growing up. Like, Paris talks in her documentary about how she always had a camera in her face from the time she was like an infant, and her parents were so obsessed with the idea of her beauty, and they would always push on her that she was so beautiful. Like, her grandma would call her Grace Kelly and Marilyn Monroe all the time. And I think that that's something that would mess someone up so much, that creating a persona that's so based on someone's outward appearance would make sense, because it's been pushed to her that that's what is valued most to her.
Yeah, and like there's a line from her aunt in the documentary, and it was like, we shouldn't have talked about Paris's beauty as much as they did.
And there's all these videos of her when she's maybe 9.
Love Kyle Richards. She's a Real Housewife.
She?
Kyle? That's Paris's aunt.
Yeah, Paris.
Oh my god, I did not know that she was a Real Housewife.
I didn't either.
She has that
Beverly
vibe.
Hills.
She has that vibe.
She does have the vibe.
But also with the Olsen twins, like, they were on set all day, every day since they were infants for Full House.
A follow-up question. I wonder how, like, being on set... Okay, so basically, I know too much about the Olsens, but basically, since Mary-Kate and Ashley, they were, like, the middle two, so there were 4 kids. They were, like, the middle two. They had an older brother and a younger sister.
I didn't know they were middle. I thought they were the oldest.
No one cares about the brother.
Yeah. And since Mary-Kate and Ashley were on set all the time, the other siblings would, like, come to set every day as, like, an after-school program, like, kind of thing. I wonder how that affected them, because they weren't in front of the camera, but they were still sort of around that all the time.
Yeah, I also wonder if how it like Mary-Kate and Ashley were one, and there's like, I wonder, like, I feel like that's a thing with twins. Like, it's hard to develop your own identity, and if you're acting as the same person for what, like 10 years.
Exactly. And like all of their media after that was just based on the fact that they were twins. Like, what was that movie, It Takes Two? I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah, I have.
It's like kind of really bad, but it's them when they were maybe 4 or 5, and it's just like all these bits about twins
And like being the same person.
Yeah, exactly. And then in all of their movies afterwards, like, I was going to talk about the outfits, but especially in Winning London, which is my favorite one, all of their outfits are so good, but they're all like inverse versions of each other, and they play off of that so much, like being the same but slightly different. And I can't imagine like building your whole brand on just having a sister.
Well, I think they sort of tried to get out of that, because Mary-Kate kept acting for like maybe another like year or two after Ashley stopped. Yeah, she was in like small roles and stuff, but I definitely think that when they became teenagers, it kind of got to them, because like when you're a teenager, you're like starting to try and figure out who you are, and to just be constantly grouped with this other person. Even though they're your twin and they're like, they consider themselves best friends, like I'm sure it was so hard for them.
Like, that's the plot of New York Minute.
I was just about to say that.
And that's really like the last twin movie they made,
Yes,
right?
it was.
And the whole plot is that they're like polar opposites, and they have to get along.
Don't like each other in the movie.
It's really good.
It's a really good one. All right, so okay, you kind of touched on this, but what is your favorite Olsen movie?
Okay, I wrote 3. First, I have New York Minute, because it's actually a really weirdly good movie.
It's so good.
Eugene
Like, it
Levy
has,
is in it.
I know, it has baby Jared Padalecki.
Yeah,
Dean from
yeah.
Gilmore Girls.
Yeah.
Or Supernatural.
Yep.
If you're a nerd. And then I liked Winning London, but only because of the outfits. Like, you know that outfit where they have the tie-dye pants and the coat and those boots. And I really like Holiday in the Sun because it has baby Megan Fox, and she's adorable in it.
Yeah, those are good ones.
Yeah, those are good ones. Okay, another question for you. How can you see the Olsen's influence in Hollywood today?
Okay.
So, they actually, very recently, like 2 days ago, the Row, so Mary-Kate and Ashley's fashion brand, dressed Niamh at the Brits.
And Delia freaked out about this.
Yes, because I love Niamh and I love the Olsen, so this was like a really big mashup for me. And also, they like grew up together, sort of. So like
They're LA babies.
Yeah, they're all from the Valley. And
Delia loves the Valley.
Yes. And the twins' younger sister is the exact same age as
Elizabeth
Niamh's.
Olsen. She's Wanda from the Marvel.
Yeah. She was this exact same age as the middle Niamh sister, so like they knew who each other were, and they would like see each other at parties. So like they're really friendly. I just think that's really interesting. And like now the Row dressed them at the Brits.
Yeah, and they both marketed off of sisterhood.
Boom.
Interesting. Putting that together.
Okay, here's what I was gonna say is that Delia kind of covered this, but they've been huge trendsetters, like since they were little baby fetuses. And like Delia said, with popularizing the whole boho aesthetic, I use boho because it's boho, like not emphasis on the ho. It's just like it's not bohemian. It's like such a specific subsect of the late 2000s, early
It's just
2010s.
like Vanessa Hudgens.
No, literally.
But like Vanessa Hudgens was inspired by the Olsen twins.
And like Aria Montgomery, I'm pretty sure
Mm.
Liars would
Yes.
not exist without Mary Kate Olsen.
Agreed. Agreed.
Which probably would not be a bad thing. And then, yeah, that's kind of what I have to say. I think that they kept a good amount of their life private, especially if you're twins. Like, working too hard to separate yourself from each other could work just to, like, violate your personal life, which is worrisome. And I think they did a good balance of that.
I agree.
Yeah. All right, so a little transition back to Paris Hilton here.
Yeah.
Would you consider The Simple Life the like blueprint for future reality TV shows?
Yes, I would. But I also think it is the only good one because it's just like so garishly 2007.
Yes.
Like, we talk about the editing in it. There's
the
this
sound effects.
It's like they wake up in the morning and they show like a cartoon of a clock and like the sound effect of a rooster.
Yeah.
Yes. Or the little cartoons they draw.
Yeah. And like whenever they show a cow, it's like
Yeah, it's just so extra.
Or every once in a while they play like there's Paris Hilton.
Miss Hilton, you must be worth $1 trillion. It is perfect. And also, since Paris always says that she was playing a character for that period in the public eye, it's really entertaining. Like, it's not like, I cannot watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
No, me neither.
Like, that is one thing I could never get into because I just don't care about them, and I think they're boring, and I hate their minimalist aesthetic.
Paris Hilton made the Kardashians.
Exactly. Like, Kim would be nothing without her. Kim was her assistant before she was famous.
Yeah, and then Kim released a sex tape after Paris did.
Yeah, because everyone thought that Paris released it on purpose for publicity, but it was really a huge violation of her trust.
Yeah,
with her skeevy boyfriend, who she recorded it with, who is now a poker player.
My mom watched the documentary with me, and she was like, I had no idea that it wasn't like staged. I thought she released it.
Tabloids are vicious. And also, this is what I was going to say. It's really entertaining, but I think that modern reality shows aren't as fun because the media is like really oversaturated with them. Like, Netflix comes out with a new reality show every week and nobody watches them. And if you do watch them, it's never like your favorite show, you know?
Yeah.
Unless you're like one of those Bachelor people. But even then, you like cycle through the contestants so quick that it doesn't like leave a place in your heart.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, I'm a big fan of The Real Housewives. And like, I'm currently watching New York, and they have like 13 seasons. Like, it's been going on for so long, but I love it. I find it so entertaining, and all the women are obviously like just basically cartoon characters of themselves. And that's why I think it's funny.
No, I love the fabricated drama.
Yes,
I love it.
It's like
they
dance
throw
moms.
wine in each other's face. Like, I have been to so
But, like,
many
without
dinner
the child
parties.
abuse.
Not a single glass of wine has ever been thrown, and yet it's thrown every
Can we
other
start
episode.
doing that?
Yes.
We need to start throwing wine in people's faces more.
I think we
Yes.
should keep a tally of how many times Delia said Real Housewives in this episode.
I think it was only
There's
two.
so many connections.
I think it was like 3 or 4.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that the fabricated drama, it's just so garish, and like when they're on the buses and they do their whole shana sha shana sha shana sha sha shana sha, and all of the people behind them are like trying to go to their 9 to 5. It's just ridiculous. Like, it's the funniest commentary on their weird little lives, and I love it. Like, it's so funny.
It's so good. Okay.
How do you think growing up in a conservative family influenced Paris? Do you think it might have caused her erratic behavior?
I think it definitely did, but also, like, I think the move from California to New York was like a huge factor, because there was suddenly a socialite scene, which wasn't really a thing in California. California was more like just rich people. It wasn't so much crazy celebrity culture as it became afterwards. Yeah, like New York was more that at that time, and she was forced into charm school when she got there, which would honestly piss anyone off. Like, I wouldn't go to the extent that Paris did, obviously, but also she was in such an extreme situation where there was so much pressure on her to like be this perfect, like, what are those Bush twins?
Oh my gosh,
you know what I'm talking about, like like just
Nancy
prim and proper,
maybe.
Yeah.
And I also think that it's such a common media trope for a reason. Like, teenage girls rebel against their parents. That's the way it always is. Like, you can ask anyone. That's the way it always is. When you're 15.
Yeah.
And I think that that was one of the factors, but when you watch the documentary, her mom seems really unapologetic. And same thing with Nikki. Like, you know that scene where they're talking on the couch and Paris is crying about the fact that she can't sleep because she has constant nightmares about the abuse, and Nikki's like, I was always the first to tell on you. I would never get in trouble because Paris was naughty.
Nikki,
I'm like,
Nikki embraced the debutante scene. She's a Rothschild now, which is like absurd, like huge rich Jewish family from New York. So it's like she's what the parents wanted Paris to be. She was supposed to do The Simple Life with her.
That would have sucked because she's not as funny as Nicole. And like, not to mention the amount of cameras that were stuck in her face. Like, we already mentioned that, but that would mess anybody up. Like, if you had a camera always in your face, might as well start acting for it, you know?
Yeah, I think it would actually be really interesting to just do like an expose on just the Hilton family in general, because it was like Paris's dad wanted nothing to do with the cameras, absolutely nothing.
Okay,
but he was always the one filming her. That's what bothers me.
He says that in the documentary, but he's in The Simple Life.
I
he
think
opens up The Simple Life.
I think that he wasn't in the documentary because he knows he did a bad thing.
And
like,
nobody
wants to be put under that pressure. And even when her mom was under that pressure, where Paris shows her the whole movement at the end, like the very end of the documentary, Paris shows her mom my headphones keep slipping. Paris shows her mom like all of the people who were survivors and what happened to them there, and her mom was just like, that happened.
The mom was
like,
it's so stupid.
The mom was like, if I knew, Dad and I would have been right there.
And I'm like, but why also Paris begged her and escaped from four different ones. And you talk about, like, at the beginning, she kind of introduces the whole troubled teen thing slowly as you go throughout, and then it hits a climax. So well. It's a really good movie.
It's on YouTube.
Also, on the way here, this is very off topic. On the way here, Just Like Honey played, and I was like, this is a good omen, because that's the opening song in the documentary. But it is a really good doc. But she slowly introduces it, and the first time she talks about the troubled teen industry, she talks about how one of the first camps she was at, it was just like manual labor in the woods, and they were basically just building more camps, and it was just like this whole like child labor to make more child labor. And so she ran away with this other girl, and then one of the administrators found her and literally physically beat her in front of everyone.
I saw like on TikTok, I see girls talking about how they've gotten kidnapped in the middle of the night.
It's not gone. It's still a thing.
And it's like, what parents would do that to a child?
It's horrible.
Okay. So this kind of goes off a bit, but like, do you think that the documentary showed us enough of like the real Paris? She kind of like alluded to how her online persona isn't not her. The documentary seemed to show us more of her trauma than it did her true personality.
I think, it's so hard to talk about celebrities with like, I want to be nice because I do like her. I like like what she has achieved, and I think she's entertaining in what she does. But at the same time, I think a lot of the documentary, although it did reveal her trauma, and nobody should ever have to go through that, like that would mess anybody up. But I do think a lot of it was trying to clear her name more than
Interesting.
I
trying
agree.
to like show the real Paris. And I do respect that, but at the same time, I think that she deserves to have the real Paris stay with herself, because when you've played a character in the public eye, it's like
Hard to take it back.
yeah. And what really bothered me in the documentary was like it was so much iPhone. Like,
Yeah.
it was like every shot was a bajillion iPhones, and she was in Mykonos for one part. And
And she kept just taking photos.
yeah, and she was like, this is the first time I've had a vacation since I was 15. And like all she was doing was taking photos, and she talked about how her screen time was 16 hours a day.
That's absurd.
I don't even think I'm
crazy.
awake that long in a day.
Yeah.
Me neither. I'm not.
And like that's what worries me, is that it's so ingrained in her. And like the last scene, they talk about how like, is the world ever going to see the true Paris, or are you going to keep doing this act? And she was like, I want to keep doing the act. And I think that there's like,
I feel like she needs to delve into that in
Well,
therapy.
she kind of talked
Yeah.
about how she definitely understands that she sort of started the whole like social media selfie etc. sort of thing, and then she talks about how it's a monster. She's like, I created a monster. But, like,
Okay,
she,
I agree with that.
I do too, but
Yeah.
we'll delve into that
Yeah.
a little later.
But she still seems to be like, I don't know, attributing to it because
Yeah.
she's still participating.
I think it's
in
just
it.
But I
she's
think
used to
there's-
it.
Yeah, exactly. When you're if your whole life is showing this one brand, you spend 16 hours of every day. Like,
Perfecting
do you
it?
follow her on Instagram?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, first of all, very random, but all of her photos are videos.
videos.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh,
they're
I don't know
videos.
how they're videos.
And there's
they
like
don't
no
move.
They don't move at all.
It's just a video for no reason.
Also, she's engaged.
Yeah, but she's been engaged before. I think she's actually going to stick it out
Me
this
too.
time
yeah,
because her boyfriend seems nice.
and they're making a documentary out
a
of
TV
it.
show on her
Yeah.
wedding.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I'm excited. But also, I really do think she needs to take a step back from
Yes.
all of the social media she uses, because
She's 40 years
losing
old.
herself. I know.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I'm worried about more, is like, I don't think there was a real Paris, but I
Yeah.
think that she's getting way too consumed into portraying this thing. Like, her whole business is dependent on this brand that she does.
I feel like
Okay,
she just
but-
needs to like. I feel like if she were able to take a step back from her company and sort of let whoever the second person in the
Yeah.
hierarchy is, if she would let them lead for a while so that she could take a step back and sort of focus on
Maybe
herself, then I definitely think
I also don't think anything would change in her income.
Okay,
if she
listen.
did that.
Yeah.
I looked it up. She's $300 million net worth, but she has over $2 billion in revenue from her products.
Then why? Okay, a whole thing in the movie is how she won't stop working until she hits $1 billion.
But you can't even get $1 billion in a bank account. Oh my god, my phone.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. YouTube is getting a new view. Basically, I have something written down for this later.
No, I'm just-
Should we all lean? But it's like, you don't need that money. And I think
No.
it has so much to do with like the whole capitalist idea of the American dream, that in order to be respected, you have to be working yourself to death. And
Yeah.
like, I understand the idea of like you work, like, and then you you earned your money, blah blah blah. But when you look at people like Paris and Kim Kardashian and Kylie, like, they kind of started this whole idea that influencers need to have businesses in order to like be businesswomen. And I'm like, can you just be rich?
Kylie Jenner's the youngest
Billionaire. But when you think about it, she would not be billionaire if she didn't have her brand before.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's all this false like self-earned thing, which is just total crap. And
Also,
it's
it's
just
like,
frustrating.
Stop selling. Like, okay, you made $1 billion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need the money.
You don't need
No.
$1 billion.
Also,
no
who
one
is
needs
buying Paris Hilton's products?
'Cause I've never seen
and I'm a
them.
fan. Like, I have never seen them. Once I saw her perfume in CVS, and that was like in, I don't know, like 2016.
Now I want to research Paris Hilton products.
I don't even know what they are. I bet
Me
it's like
neither.
bedazzled phone cases.
And
Okay.
like, I'm sure there's like a lipstick.
Yeah.
Okay, Niamh, transition. What parts of 2000s pop culture do you think have stood the test of time that you can still see in society today?
Okay. So I really do like early 2000s TV shows and rom-coms, and I don't think that rom-coms will ever be better than they were.
No, I feel like I was actually thinking about this the other day. They've sort of lost the idea of like TV shows that are just like two girls doing, or like movies or that are just two girls like doing things together, and it doesn't really have to revolve around a boy, because like in like some of the Olsen twins movie they like end up with a boy, but it's not really about the boy. It's about like they find a boy while doing their own thing.
Also, like
I like rom-coms though.
I watched Valentine's Day for the first time. It is so good.
So good.
Wait, I've never seen it. Should I watch it?
Taylor
Taylor
Swift
Swift
is
is in
acting in it. You have to watch it.
I'll watch it.
She's a terrible actress.
She
Yes,
is a terrible actress.
we touched on that last week.
She's literally not even playing a character. They let her have an obscenely large 13 on her hand, sparkly.
It's like
The entire show.
it's teal glittery paint with a black Sharpie out. It covers her whole hand. It makes like, I don't know if her hand is
Okay, I
like
know what I'm watching
enlarged,
tonight.
but I couldn't look at her face because I was looking at that 13 so much.
Oh,
it was
my
so
Lord.
garish. And like when I looked up Valentine's Day and I wanted to know like how the hell she got in this movie, it was like the first article was like, Taylor Swift drops an Easter egg in hit movie Valentine's Day. See if you can find it. And I'm like, the 13.
The 13.
How could you not see it? But also, we all know that thing where it's like 20-year cycle for fashion, right?
Yeah.
I would say that is so prevalent. I haven't been on TikTok since like the summer, but I know that when I was last on it, my whole TikTok For You page was just like earth grunge fairy, like that whole thing, like those cycles of fashion, you know, on TikTok where they make like these hyper specific aesthetics. But one thing I noticed is that so many low-rise jeans, like all of these things are coming back.
I don't want those to come back.
I have a pair.
I like high-waisted
I will
things.
never wear them though. I wish
No,
I
I
could pull
would.
them off.
I think you should wear them.
Maybe I will. Okay. But also Von Dutch coming back.
The
Trucker
hats.
Do you know who Devin Lee Carlson is?
Fly. There was a fly. I got it though.
I'm covered in sunscreen, so it's probably coming after me for that. But there's this influencer, named Devin Lee Carlson, and basically she just does like all these outfits and stuff. She's dating the lead singer from The Neighborhood. You know the band, right? But basically she owns Wildflower cases, and so much of her style is like Y2K stuff, and she's like a really big influence in fashion right now. And I have a lot of respect for the revamping of early 2000s fashion.
I do too.
You see juicy tracksuits. I want one.
I want one so badly.
They're so cute.
Like, I want a hot pink one, like Elwood's.
I know. I want a brown one.
Yeah.
And then you see baby tees, obviously, like a classic, and then baguette bags,
Oh yeah.
and like the list goes on and on and on. And also, this is for you, Delia. Dua Lipa's Grammy red carpet dress this
Yes.
year was inspired by butterfly tops.
And also by Cher's outfit.
Yeah, but like
that's more
the top-
90s.
No, that's 70s.
Oh yeah.
I could come on here again and just talk about Cher in the 70s because I am the biggest Cher fan in the world. But her top, like the bodice of her dress, like Mariah Carey wore one of those butterfly tops on the runway in the early 2000s. And
We should
kinda
do it side by
popularized
side.
that. Yeah, it's very similar. And like those are coming back too.
Dua Lipa in her current like era of future nostalgia has been doing like so many 2000s callbacks.
Yeah.
Like her outfit to the Brits this year was also very inspired by like 2000s British pop rock.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait. I was getting her Grammys and her Brits looks confused.
Grammys
The
was like
Brits was-
sparkly butterfly.
Yeah.
Brits was gold.
It was like the yellowy dress.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I have to say. I say the
Alright.
fashion's coming back.
So, what are some thoughts on the toxic 2000s mindset that you must like project the idea that you are always okay, even when most people are not?
I think that the early 2000s, late 90s kind of introduced a new era of celebrity exposure.
Yeah,
Because
social
the
media and
paparazzi was coming after people a lot, and like that was a new thing. Like, you don't have the amount of privacy you used to have. Like, if you're, say you're an actress or you're a pop star like Britney Spears, it's like wherever you went, it wasn't just fans. It was people who were trying to capitalize off your sheer presence.
Yeah, in the documentary, like, they were like, it's like $1 million for a photo of Paris
Exactly.
Hilton.
Oh my God. Can we talk about what a skeeve her social media manager was?
Oh my gosh,
He was the one who was like, I started a whole paparazzi company just off Paris Hilton. I'm like, why does she employ you?
Yeah.
Like, but
she kind of like sided with the enemy there.
yeah. There's a scene where she's in a cab and there are all these paparazzi outside, and she says she used to take out her digital camera and take pictures of them to see how they liked it. And I'm like, they don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that since paparazzi was coming after people, you started to have less control over your image, and paparazzi's kind of a dying thing now.
Yeah.
Thank God. It's still around, but nobody gives a crap. Like, name the last time you've read a tabloid. Except for like Daily Mail, Snapchat story.
Well, yeah, because now there's like so much like Instagram, like Twitter, and it's like the celebrities can control their own narrative a little bit.
And I think that like the whole act like you're okay even when you're not. Like, I personally think that celebrities should have more of a private life than they do, and it does weird me out how they kind of turn into objects, like what we talked about with Paris.
Yeah.
So on social media, when celebrities are like, I'm sad too, I'm like, okay, like, I don't care. That's the thing, is that like, yeah, like, people get sad sometimes, but it's also, the problem is that people are starting to think social media represents people's entire lives, and that's a whole problem in itself.
Yeah, especially with like people posting like their political views or like their mental health and stuff, like even just like sharing on Instagram stories, all that stuff.
Yeah, it's like it becomes an extension of yourself.
And like another thing about that is like, I feel that a lot of people, especially our age, feel obligated to like post Instagram infographics on their stories. But I'm like, who are you talking to?
No,
You're
it's
800
also like
followers that all have the exact same mindset as you. Like,
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
not making a difference.
And there's like a pressure to expose your whole self on Instagram.
But only the best parts of yourself.
Yeah.
Because it's like,
Also, we're totally going off topic. I don't even care.
that's fine.
But I also think that people shouldn't speak on things if they don't know everything about it, because it can just lead to like word vomit, and you can get yourself in a situation. Even coming on this podcast, I try to be a private person.
Yeah.
But like, even coming on this podcast, I get so nervous about like things being on the internet about me.
Yeah.
Like, after the Gov tweets, I deleted my whole account because I was like, I don't want people to see my tweets, the live tweets of the things. And I didn't even say anything like bad. It's just something about like a part of yourself, or like what we view as a part of yourself, in air quotes, for those listening on Spotify. It's like something about that being out there for everyone to see is so unhealthy, and that's what I think is weird about celebrities being like, look, I wear makeup only sometimes, like I have freckles under here. I'm like,
my gosh,
yeah, but like you get 20 facials a week. Like, I hate that whole I'm just like you thing. And I know that celebrities can use their platforms however they want, and I like when they're actually authentic, but I hate that manufactured authenticity where it's like, I have bad days too, and I'm like, just like you plebeians. Like, it's so extra. And I think that's why, oh my God, why will these headphones keep falling off? But I think that's why, like, the era when paparazzi became so ingrained into celebrity life, like, totally shifted things.
Yeah. And
because they didn't have private lives anymore.
No. And I think like with the celebrities like saying they're okay, it's a lot of manufactured from like publicists, and like it's not from them themselves.
Exactly. And when celebrities post like a bunch of things about mental health, or like, I know that it's important to have causes that you support, but it kind of comes from a place of like,
just have a cause sometimes.
Yeah, like their appearance, which is frustrating. But I think the problem, like, everyone's just trying to get by. That's what's so weird, is that everyone's just trying to get by. And like, the problem is more that we put so much value onto celebrity lives. It's not the celebrity's fault that
it's like, that's who you look up to. Like, that's who those 8th grade girls are copying.
I think people should be able to post whatever they want on Instagram, but the problem is the pressure to post certain things. And like, I'm not especially active on Instagram. Like, I don't really post that much. I don't really want to. Like, something about it really bothers me.
Yeah, me too. I don't post that much.
And I talk about this with my friends so much. Like, I delete it so much, and then I come back to it because I'm just bored and I have a terrible attention span. But like,
I like it just for the explore page.
no, same. Mine
It's
is
like-
just like movie edits, and they're so cringy, and I love them.
Mine is like astrology, like Pisces memes.
Oh, Virgo memes. They always come for my neck.
Yeah, they do.
We have to be careful, especially our age group, not to let social media define our entire lives. I was talking about this with, can I name drop other people in our class?
Yeah.
I was talking about this with Sydney, if you're listening to this. But I was talking about this with Sydney, that I cannot imagine still having Instagram after I graduate college.
Me either.
Like, what am I
you
gonna do?
post? What are you gonna post?
It's like pictures of
Like
your
my
kids.
garden.
Like my
I'm not gonna
computer
have a
at
kid.
work.
Like, I cannot imagine me giving birth. Sorry,
Oh my God.
we are so off topic.
It's okay. It's okay.
It's fine. But like, I also, I don't think, I only care about a few people, like what they post,
Yeah.
you know? And even then, like, people don't post things that represent them.
Yeah.
Like, it's people's Finstas that are funny.
Yeah, or like private stories and Snapchat.
Yeah. I can't believe I just said Finsta in 2021.
Hey.
Everything I'm saying is so jumbled. Going back to Paris, I think that I think that Paris kind of ushered in the era of like having an air on Instagram
Yeah.
and like a total different personality. And I just hate that. Like, I hate Instagram. That's what you can take out of this, is that I hate every social media.
Me too.
You can ask anyone I know.
I literally,
literally hate them.
I only like Snapchat, and that's because it's people I know posting like.
I deleted
random
Snapchat
stuff.
and I really miss Delia's stories.
Delia's
That's what I miss
stories
the
are really
most.
good.
Yeah.
Mine are so jumbled.
I feel bad. I have a bad habit with Snapchat where I just don't respond. So I just deleted it. But I think that what were we even talking about?
I don't know. We can move on.
Project the idea that you're always okay. This is I
feel like it's fine in an online sort of
I
way,
agree.
but
I also think
I don't
that
think.
but I feel like since so many celebrities are doing it online, then so many people today think that like they
Yeah.
can't really talk about like their mental health
12-year-old girls.
issues.
Like,
yeah, I agree. And I also think that it should be something that's promoted in more of a, not like in a totally private space, but more of a community space
Yeah.
rather than like a totally public space. Like posting like your personal issues. When I used to have a private story, a little trip down memory lane, I would like say when I was like sad and stuff, and I'd like talk to people about it, but like it would only ever make me feel worse, you know? And I feel like a
Interesting.
lot of people do that, and it doesn't help. It doesn't give you closure, because like you're not talking to people who are there for you, and especially in quarantine, COVID,
Let's just
the new normal.
Oh my god.
I think that there was way too little human interaction, and it kind of led to a whole new era of like airing out your feelings.
Okay, like posting
On
photos of when you're
public
crying.
Yeah, I'm an ugly crier, so I don't want to do that. That's okay. The whole thing with posting photos when you're crying, this is what I'm trying to get across. I'm a horrible speaker, by the way. You guys can tell that I am so jumbled. But
You're doing great.
thank you. I think that people should be able to post whatever they want.
Yeah. So, any last thoughts or anything you want to leave us with?
No, I'm obsessed with the fact that Paris invented selfies.
True.
Okay, yeah.
That's all.
All right. So, thank you, Niamh, so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
We hope that you learned a lot more about the 2000s and its influence still today, and our hot takes on pop or on social media.
In society.
Yep.
Delete your Snapchat.
And that's it for this week on
Pop-arazzi.